It's Filan, right?
Five. Yep.
Okay. All right, we're live. It's Behind the Bits, and I'm live on YouTube and Facebook with Joanne Filan. How you doing, Joanne?
Hey, Scott. I'm excited to be here. I'm doing great.
Eh,
That's a lie. I'm not
yeah,
doing great. Who is doing great? No one.
everything sucks right now.
Yes, exactly. I should not start off with a lie. That's probably bad.
Well, at least you got somebody to talk to for a little while.
Yeah, that's true. It's nice. It's nice. It's excellent.
Yeah, now you're a East Coast comic, correct?
Yes, yes. I am from New Jersey. Perform a lot in New York, though, too. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, great. So, Joanne, when did you start doing comedy?
I think it was, it's funny. I always forget, and then time just flies by, and years go by, and I think it's somewhere in the 15 year range
Okay.
that I've been doing it. So, I
So,
think.
would it offend you if I asked you how old you were when you started then, since you're putting years to it?
Oh, that makes it. There's a lot of math involved, and
Yeah.
and I've already used up my lie at the beginning of the thing. So
Okay. But you weren't 16 when you started,
no,
obviously.
I was not.
Okay.
I was absolutely not. No,
Okay.
I was. I wish I had started earlier. Of course,
Don't we all?
would have been nice. But
I feel like when I talk to people who started comedy a little bit later, I feel like that you get a little bit of a jump start because you're not so full of yourself when you start, because you've already been through that.
and that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So thinking about comedy and your influences, obviously you must have thought about it for a while before you did it. What influenced you to want to do comedy, and which comics were the ones that made you want to be like them?
It's good. Good question. I think one of the reasons I want to do comedy is just always enjoy making people laugh. But as far as like influences, not even just in stand up, but in comedy, I always enjoyed watching Carol Burnett, the Carol Burnett Show. I mean, it's not stand up, but it just would just so hilarious.
I absolutely
So
love that show.
yeah, no, and she is just everyone on it was so great. Tim Conway, Harvey Korman, all of those. When I was little watching them, that was just so funny, and I can still watch it now.
Yeah.
So always a good influence, and then even like Bob Newhart.
Yeah.
I've always been a big fan of his. I have an album, one of his oh my god, which album do I have? It's I think his first comedy album.
Is it Button Down Comic?
The Unbuttoned Down Mind. God, I haven't.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah,
Buttons in there. I know that.
Yeah. Buttoned Down Mind, something like that. But yeah, so he was a big influence in my thoughts of comedy. So, and then of course people that you Robin Williams is always a good Joan Rivers, any of the Chris Rock, so many but overall, like way back when I was little, watching the the Carol Burnett show is one of the big influences in my thoughts on comedy, I guess. So
what was it that made the push to get you on stage? You obviously have to have a first time. And what was it that made you get up on that stage the first time?
Well, it's one of those things that it's just people would say, "Oh, you're funny. You should do comedy." Years and whatever. And then one point I just was like, "Hey, you know what? I think I'll do it." And I like taking classes. For some reason, I would take random classes online, or whatever adult education classes when they have them and stuff like that. And so I took a class in New York, in the city, which there's 7 million classes
Right.
that you could take, but I took one of those, and it was like 6 or 8 weeks. And then we had like a graduation show
Uh-huh.
at Caroline's. It was big, big
Yeah.
deal on Broadway, and it did my 5 minutes in front of my friends and family and people that had to laugh,
Uh-huh.
essentially. And that was it. I mean, that's how I got hooked.
Right.
It's just
Who
such an
taught that
amazing.
class?
It was Steve Rosenfeld. No, Field. Rosenfield.
Yeah.
Yes, Steve Rosenfield. It was the American Comedy Institute.
Uh-huh. Have you read his book?
No, I have not.
Yeah, I
I didn't.
actually I got it as an Audible book.
Oh,
I can't
that's great.
I can't remember the title. It's Steve Rosenfield, and I can't remember the title to save my life, but
It's probably
there
the
was
button
so much.
down mind.
Yeah, yeah. Button
Something with
something.
buttons.
Button up your comedy,
Right.
There was so much good stuff in there. The only thing that I didn't agree with was how he wanted you to plan your crowd work. And he may have
Oh.
taught that. He has a whole
Hmm.
chapter on planning your crowd work and
Wow.
getting them to say what you want them to say so you can respond in the way you want to respond.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Never thought
Yeah.
about it that way.
Yeah. It's really good. The only thing is if you get the Audible book, you have to increase the speed by 1.25 because he talks extremely slow. He's narrating it himself.
Oh, yeah. We don't have time for this.
Yeah.
Just speed it up. Thank goodness
Yeah.
for that.
So I sped it up, and he sounded like he was just yammering along, and I got
Oh,
everything I needed.
excellent. Yeah, I do that with like so many podcasts. I'm just like, no, you guys are just no, I don't.
Yeah.
My attention span has long since gone.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So I know that a lot of people take that class and classes like that. There's ones in
Mhm.
Chicago and ones in LA where you can do that and you do your graduation set. How many of the people that were in that class with you, if you were to guess, how many of them actually went on to do stand-up comedy after that?
As far as I know specifically, I know two people that were in the class that still do comedy, and
Mhm.
I know them. I know them still. One is he's still in New York,
Mhm.
and the other one lives in Texas now. But
Okay.
both of them are still doing it. So
Mhm.
I mean, give or take a couple of years off or something like that, but they're still
Mhm.
doing it. And as far as the other people, I have no idea.
Yeah, and I know a lot of folks. It's either a bucket list thing or they want to
Yeah,
get better at
right.
public speaking and things like that. Their
Yeah,
intentions are not to be a stand-up comic, but they go through
right.
that class because everything you learn in a class like that translates to just about everything you do in life. So you might as
Yeah,
well take it.
yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, there's something you'd be able to use.
Yeah. Thinking about this is a new one for the rapid round.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I I I'm always interested in what people are reading, music they're listening to, podcasts they're listening to. Is there anything that has, obviously, we've got a little bit more time now. Is there anything that you're
Mm.
into right now that has really, sparked a light bulb, changed your life a little bit?
Um, I listen to a lot of podcasts, of course, a lot of comics podcasts,
Mhm.
which has been very, I mean, definitely interesting because right now I feel like comics are doing their best to do different things.
Mhm.
There's one uh, Jessica Curson. Have you heard of Jessica Curson?
Yeah, I've been approaching her for my podcast,
Oh,
and
have
so
you?
far I'm getting shot down. So
She's got a lot going on. She
yeah,
is
she does.
always, and she is hilarious and an amazing. She's an amazing comic and an amazing woman. Always been very supportive and just amazing person. But her podcast is, although it is, talking with other comics, but it's also has a almost like a therapeutic side to it
Right.
too.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of interesting. I've been enjoying listening to that. I'm listening to also Alan Alda has a
Yeah.
podcast. Have you heard of that? Clear
Yeah.
and Vivid.
The science podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting about communication and stuff like that. And so
Hmm.
I've learned a lot from that too. It's been enjoyable. Those two podcasts. And then as far as reading, I don't know if I've read a lot lately. I can't keep my mind
Uh-huh.
quiet right
Yeah.
now enough to sit down and actually read printed words.
Right. Right.
So, but yeah,
But
just
that's
doing what I
great.
can.
And the funny thing is you mentioned a couple podcasts I actually like, and just what Jessica is doing with hers, I particularly like because she's kind of exploring her own issues
Yes.
and doing that with somebody, so that they can explore their own issues. And you're right, it's very therapeutic, and I don't think there's very many of the episodes that I've listened to that don't have something that click with me, you know?
Right. I know exactly. I feel the same way.
I mean, we don't all experience all of it, but there's something
Right.
there, you know, the parent issues and, you
Yeah.
know, the depression and all that kind of stuff. It's,
Yeah.
you know, stuff clicks with you, and it's nice. Sometimes it's just nice to know that somebody's going through it. You know,
Yeah.
somebody else is going through it and they're coming out of it, and they're
Right.
as okay as somebody can be in
Right.
this world
Exactly.
today. Yeah.
And the things, and the things you think about insecurities and stuff like that, that
Yeah.
everybody has them, you know,
Yeah.
and especially as a comic, to watch another comic who I know to be an amazing comic, you know, hilarious, just kills every time she's on stage, and she still has the same kind of insecurities.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting to see, you know.
Yeah, that's
It's
really
nice.
nice to see.
Yeah.
So the last question for the rapid round: what comedy album or special would you consider to be your all-time favorite?
Mm. Well, as far as comedy albums, the Button Down Mind of Bob Newhart, because
Yeah.
that's really
I
the
think
only
you got the
comedy
title
album
right.
I have. Yeah, I think it is the Button Down Mind.
Yeah.
That is, I love that one. As far as specials, there is, I've enjoyed a number of specials from Ellen DeGeneres. Some of her older ones.
Mm.
Also, there's one that I really enjoyed that I saw on Netflix. Sarah Silverman's Speck of Dust, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that. I think I've watched that a couple times.
Okay.
And I've definitely enjoyed that. As well as Wanda Sykes has a good one on Netflix too.
Yeah.
Don't know the name of it, but those are the ones that I think are up there on my list.
Great. So for the people who are watching live, where can they find your website, your social media, all the stuff that you're doing?
They can find my website is upstreamcomedy.com or joannefilan.com. Both will take you to the same place. And on social media, I think Instagram, Twitter, I'm at Joanne Filan, and Joanne Filan Comedy, I think, on Facebook. And I think that is, that's where I am. I haven't ventured into TikToking or whatever.
I wrote a joke
like
about
80.
that. I've got a bit, yeah.
All right.
Because I don't have it either.
Good. You got to draw the line somewhere. I mean,
yeah, no doubt. So if you're watching now, Joanne and I are going to talk to ourselves for a while, and you can't watch anymore, but you can subscribe to the Behind the Bits podcast on all the podcast apps. It's on Apple, Android, any podcast app. I've put myself on it, so it's easy to find, or you can go to my website. It's thebtbpc.com, thebtbpc.com. Thank you for watching, and subscribe to the podcast to hear more. Thank you.
Hey, bye.